Welcome to the SyrupCast, MobileSyrup's Canadian tech-focused podcast. I am Patrick O'Rourke, and Brad Bennett, a man who refers to himself as the bad boy of tech. He's across the internet from me. He's got a matching Canada shirt and hat on.
This isn't a Canada shirt. It's just got red on it.
Okay.
It's
like,
nice.
Same color,
I
right?
guess it kind of does look like maple leaves from far away, but they're just like little red flowers.
Your camera's following you around when you move. You're living in the future.
Yeah, I don't know if I guess I'll have to attach that angle when I add the podcast, but I have my iPhone attached to the MacBook Air, which is running the next macOS beta, so I can use camera continuity, which allows me to put my iPhone on a stick over there, and it just is a cool camera, but I also am recording from my regular camera as per usual over there. So happy to be here. Sick. Happy to talk about Google, Rick Osterloh and the boys.
Rick Osterloh and the boys. Okay, and we also have John on the show this week. How are you doing, John?
Doing pretty good. I am thriving in this fall weather. Screw summer, it's too hot. And screw winter, it's too cold. Give me this perfect, 15 degrees, sweater weather, but still nice. That's what I want.
Do you leave your windows open when
I
it's
do,
this type
actually.
of weather? Yeah, me too.
It gets very warm in my apartment. So I have the windows open right now.
I'm loving the temperature in my house, but not the dust that comes from my windows being open. The dust makes me sad.
Yeah, dust is tough. My house is full of dust all the time. Every year, I'm like, I'm gonna review some like air purifiers. I'm gonna try to solve this problem, and I never do it. So someday maybe. Who knows?
So this week we're talking about all things Google and Pixel related. This is the October 6th Google Pixel preview event. We're going to talk about the Pixel 7, the Pixel 7 Pro, the Pixel Watch, and then maybe delve into whether or not we might see a couple surprises at the event. I don't think we will, but we'll talk about it and talk about why we probably won't see anything. So I guess first off, I just wanted to kick the show off with the Pixel 7. I think for me, someone who's been in this industry for a really long time, what I find fascinating about Google's lead up to the release of new Pixels, I guess probably since the Pixel 6, maybe even the Pixel 5, is they reveal stuff way ahead of time. We already know a lot about this phone, not even just based on the leaks, but based on official information that Google has released. And I know I don't have this in the notes, but I'd like to talk about that a little bit because I think that it's very different and it's in stark contrast to what Samsung and Apple do with their smartphone, and even just beyond smartphones, device releases. Google's teasing this stuff itself long before leakers are even dropping anything.
Nice.
Okay, say what you were gonna say. We were talking about how in the Pixel 3 era there were tons of leaks, and I think we at even one point even reported on a leak that we saw on the TTC.
Yeah,
I think it was John.
It was me.
Yeah.
A little MobileSyrup,
MobileSyrup
goss. I think I was still an intern at the time, and I was riding into the MobileSyrup office on the streetcar, and I saw somebody using the Pixel 3, and I snapped a picture of it. But then we were Google will be really upset if we break the story. So then we did it in a weird way. But yeah.
And I think Google was still really upset.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly. I remember being on very
wasn't
angry calls.
The only one. There were other people who saw people using the Pixel 3 on the TTC and were snapping pictures and sending them to us.
It's all over the place.
So that was a whole thing, and yeah, so I think that happened, and then I think it was the Pixel 4 where Google started the trend of we're going to announce certain things about the phone ahead of time. We're going to show off an official render of the phone, and we're going to do it super early to take the wind out of the sails of leakers. I mean, I don't think they've ever officially said that's why they do it, but that's always kind of been my hunch because yeah, I remember that with the Pixel 4, they showed off the phone and everybody was freaking out because of the huge forehead with all the Face ID camera stuff for not Face ID, Face Unlock is the Google version.
Yep.
And then they did a bunch of stuff showing off all the different sensors and how the Face Unlock work and stuff like that. And they did all that knowing.
I think that one that was a kind of a cross between what they're doing now, though. That was their first step in, because I don't think they revealed the entire phone. It was here's the top third of it,
Yeah.
like you said. Like I remember just seeing the forehead and that like big like sensor post, but I don't think it was like now where they were like, it's a random Saturday. Here's all the pictures of the pixels and the Pixel Watch. Like,
And that's literally what happened, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Didn't they release this stuff on a Saturday?
I don't think it was a
Am I
Saturday.
wrong?
I know I was on vacation, so it felt like a Saturday to me, but I'm not
But yeah,
sure if
that's
it was.
my hunch.
Anyway,
It all
sorry to interrupt.
started with the Pixel 3, specifically the Pixel 3 XL, because that had the really big notch with the 2 cameras in it, and that leaked, and everybody lost their mind because they're like, "Oh, this notch looks awful," and that was the press cycle for like 6 months leading up to the launch of the Pixel 3. Was everybody just dumping on the Pixel 3 XL notch, and so
I just remember people saying like, "You can land a plane on that thing," and I just thought that was so funny.
it was good for the memes, not good for Google.
Yeah, that was good. That was a high point for tech memes for sure.
So one of the things as someone who, like, the last time that I personally covered like a Pixel was, I believe, the Pixel 2. So like I edit your guys' work, I run the website, so like I'm aware of what's going on in the world of Pixel and Google. But for someone like myself who like doesn't know the intricacies of the differences between the 7 and the 7 Pro, can you break that down, John, and just explain, like, I guess based on what we know so far, at least, what the difference between the two phones is in terms of like what Google's shown off so far and the rumors that we've seen from various leakers?
So the way that I would approach it is, I would say, based on what we've seen so far, it looks like the Pixel 7 and the 7 Pro are going to be very much iterative updates. They're going to be S updates, if you will, to borrow some nomenclature from the Apple release cycle.
I miss those days.
So,
R.I.P.
you know,
Steve
the Pixel
Jobs.
7 and 7 Pro, they're going to have second gen tensor chip. So there's going to be some performance improvement there. But beyond that, they're basically the same, almost identical screen sizes. I think the Pixel 7 screen is going to be 6.3 inches instead of 6.4, according to the rumors. So slightly smaller there, just very minor changes overall. And then on the design side, the biggest change is, from what Google showed off, the edges of the phone and the camera bar are going to be like a more glossy, like shiny metal,
Like a stainless steel or brushed aluminum or something.
only on the Pixels,
as opposed to last year where it was
only
glass.
on the Pixel 7 Pro though. So let me just grab my 6 here. The 6, if you're watching the video cast, it's got kind of like a matte finish on the aluminum bar that goes around the edge of the phone, and then the camera bar itself is like a glossy glass. So on the Pixel 7, the smaller the Pixel 7, it's going to be the same matte aluminum, but it's going to go across the camera bar as well. And there's going to be like a little glass oval where the cameras are. And then on the Pixel 7 Pro,
I should grab my Pixel. I'll be back in 1 second.
The metal is going to be like a glossy aluminum. I think it's supposed to be aluminum. And it's going to be like really shiny.
It looks like aluminum in the pictures.
And then again, that's going to go across the camera bar with 2 circles, because the Pixel 7 Pro has 3 cameras. And that's going to be the other main difference, is the Pixel 7 Pro, again, is going to have, it's going to have your main 48 megapixel sensor, which is the same as what was in the 6 Pro.
I think the Pixels have 50 megapixel sensors.
What's that?
I'm pretty sure the Pixels have 50 megapixel sensors.
It's the same sensor as what's in the 6 and 6 Pro, which was 48 megapixels. So, yeah, so same sensor, in same main sensor, I think same ultra wide sensor. There was a whole like camera leak that went through all of this stuff. And then the 7 Pro is supposed to get a 48 megapixel telephoto sensor as well, which is going to be an upgrade there. And the Pixel 7 is going to keep just the main sensor and the ultra wide like the 6 had. So really not a huge difference between the 7 and the 7 Pro. 7 Pro is going to be bigger than the 7. I think it's supposed to have a rounded or a curved display edge again, but it's going to be more subtle than what was on the 6 Pro. It's not going to be as dramatic of a curve. It's going to have that extra camera, bigger screen, bigger battery. Presumably it's going to be 120 hertz display again, and the 7 will be 90 hertz display again. And then in terms of
just going from industry trends, I wouldn't be surprised if it's like LTPO too, like going down to that 1 hertz, like to save battery life if that actually happens or not. But that we see on like every flagship leading up to this, so I expect it to be
Yeah.
here again on the Pro at the very
Yeah.
least.
The Pixel 7, like I don't expect them to change much in terms of the screen, because there's already, in my opinion, there's already not a lot of stuff that differentiates the 6 from the 6 Pro. And so I would expect them.
My 6 screen was really bad though. Like it was just like a bad screen. Like yeah, I think you saw it when we did the test. Like
Didn't-
had that rainbow effect, and you could see the fingerprint sensor like through it in the sun. It was just not a. It was fine, but there was definitely moments where I was like, "This is like annoying. Like it's green in one corner and magenta in the other, and it's just like not great."
Maybe you got a bum unit, because my Pixel 6 was pretty solid. I haven't had
Yeah.
any issues with the screen. But then also maybe I got lucky and I got a good unit, and everybody else got bum units. Who knows?
So what about the Tensor? Like last year,
Hmm.
that was the big game changer, was Google's like making its own chip, similar to what Apple's doing, similar to what Samsung does in some regions. I know that the Tensor was a little bit underwhelming compared to what Qualcomm was doing, as well as what Apple was doing. This year, based on like what I've seen, the Tensor 2 is an improvement, but it's not that much of an improvement. And the expectation is that it's probably not going to go like toe to toe with Apple's A series chip or the latest Qualcomm chip or whatever, but it's still going to be better. Is that
So from
accurate?
what I understand from what's been shared via rumors and stuff like that, because there hasn't been a lot that Google has said about Tensor so far, other than I think they officially said that it's Tensor G2 is what they're calling it, Tensor Gen 2. And outside of that, like all of the rumors so far have kind of just said it's going to be a little bit better than Tensor Gen 1, but like not significantly better. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. The whole thing with Tensor was that, at least the way that Google kind of pitched it, was it wasn't ever supposed to be a powerhouse chip that was going to go toe to toe with Apple's A series chip.
Okay, I didn't realize
the
that.
goal with Tensor, from what Google has said, was that they wanted it to really kind of amp up their machine
Be
learning
smarter.
and intelligence stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's where the focus is. The rest of Tensor is kind of just like bare bones, what you need to have a decent flagship phone experience. And they put most of their investment into the machine learning aspects. And I think that paid off with some of the features.
Wait, can
Yeah.
I just jump in? I was gonna say maybe like it's kind of weird though, because like for the marketing perspective of it, like the speed is like so easy to market. You're like, it's fast. People love that. But with Tensor, it's like it has all these tiny like ambient improvements that is like really hard to notice like day to day. Like last night I was using my Pixel 6 on the couch, and I don't know why I never like do this, but I use Google Assistant on my phone to turn off the lights. And I'm assuming because of Tensor, it happened like way faster than when I talked to my smart display over there. But it's like those things you don't notice a lot day to day, and it's hard to like market on top of them. I'm sure there are other things like the translate stuff. If you lived in like a multilingual area, would be game changing. But there's a lot of it that's like almost feels like swept under the rug because it's not what we would normally expect from like a phone upgrade. If you know
Yeah.
what I mean. Not that it's bad, but it's just like hard to market.
No,
because of
that's a
that.
really good point, and I think that's a really accurate, or like a really good way to look at it, because for me, when I was reviewing the Pixel 6 last year with Tensor Gen 1, coming from previous Pixels that ran on Qualcomm Snapdragon chips, it was pretty easy to notice the difference. And some of the features, like the one that always kind of blew my mind was the improved voice to text that's available on Pixels, and it's like creepily accurate and insanely fast. It's like you hit the button, you say what you want to say, and send the message without touching the phone again. And it's like,
Yeah, that was something that Apple added in iOS 16, and I still don't think it's near what like Google added with Tensor. Like I think Tensor is just like you said, quicker and more accurate, and other people are still playing catch up in those areas.
So it's one of those things. It'll be a little bit hard to notice, I think, unless you're coming from a previous Pixel that had these features, and you see the difference. Okay, going from Snapdragon Pixel to a Tensor Pixel, oh wow, these things are so much faster. Or coming from another Snapdragon Android phone to a Pixel and going, oh, these things are so much faster, right?
Yeah.
The only thing that I was gonna say was something that whenever I'm writing about like an iPhone, every year obviously there's like a faster chip, except for this year with the iPhone 14, but like it's already so powerful, right? Like it's powerful enough to do anything that you want to do with a smartphone for the most part, and that's something else to keep in mind. So like we're talking about how it benchmarks under these other chips, but in the grand
Yeah,
scheme
very
of
good
things, like
point.
someone buys a Pixel, it's powerful enough,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like even the first tensor is more powerful, more than powerful enough to do like everything that somebody wants to do with a Pixel
Yeah.
device, right? This is really just like people that care about those specs, right? Like spec heads that like that's really important to them. They want to have the best chip in their smartphone, that sort of thing. In the grand scheme of things, like this phone, whether it's got the first tensor or the second tensor, it's going to perform very reliably. At least that's like how I look at it.
Yeah, that's I think a really good way to look at it. And like, even with the Pixel 5 didn't have an 8 series Snapdragon. It didn't have a flagship Snapdragon chip. It had, I think, the 765,
Some like
if I remember
co-processors or something though.
correctly.
I think that sounds right.
Which
yeah.
was, I think, the same chip.
Definitely
It
760
was the same
something.
chip that they had in the 4A 5G. And I think the 4A was a 730. But anyway, whatever. The point is, it was a 700 series chip in the Pixel 5. It wasn't a flagship chip, but the Pixel 5 still was a great experience. It did everything you needed it to do. It was snappy and fast because, software optimization and stuff like that.
And that's what matters the most.
I kind of miss Google like competing in this like under $1,000 point. I guess the Pixel 6 definitely does, but it feels more flagshipy, where it was like the Pixel 4a 5G was like competing with stuff like the Nothing phone nowadays, and like these like $500 phones, which is like a really fun market.
Well, there's still the 6a, which I would argue is really good.
You're right. I
really
totally
good
forgot about
value
that, but
because it's got the same tensor chip as the Pixel 6, but it's like $200 cheaper.
And Google's like great camera processing from like 2 years ago, which is way better than what you're going to get from a lot of $500 phones. Fair enough. I forgot what the imagine if they just slid out like a 7A. I mean, they'll probably save it for next summer, but it'd be cool to do like a whole lineup at once. Yeah.
It'll show up eventually.
Like I don't know. I just want like something to surprise us next week,
Speaking of pricing, what is the expectation for the 7 and the 7 Pro? Like, are they going to tack on a few $100s because of inflation or the value of the Canadian dollar? Are we expecting like pretty much on par with the 6?
Yeah, so there was a big leak from Target that revealed the US pricing, and the US pricing is staying the same. So the Pixel 7 is going to cost the same as the Pixel 6 did at launch, and the Pixel 7 Pro is going to cost the same as the Pixel 6 Pro did at launch in the US. Presumably, it's not going to change in Canada, but we just don't know yet. It's possible that they could.
So what's that
change
put it at?
the
Pixel
pricing.
6, $800. So that means the Pixel 6 will be like $800 here, and the 6 Pro is like $1,200. Or
it was like $1,180.
I think. How much the Pro?
So yeah, in Dean's roundup, he has like based on like the conversion at the time of when he wrote the story, 1,179 for the Pro, and
so
then
that
$799.
That's not a conversion. That's just what the Pixel 6 and Pixel 6 Pro cost in Canada at launch. The converted price, if you convert the USD price to Canadian, it's actually a little bit more than those prices. So we could see a higher cost in Canada for the Pixel 7 and 7 Pro. Hopefully we don't. I hope they keep the pricing the same.
Yeah, hopefully not. I think so. Unless they significantly improve. Well, you could argue that they kind of like changed it because they got rid of the mini and added the plus, which sort of like changed the delta of low end to high end. But but yeah, definitely they didn't change the like iPhone price, the basic.
And people expected them to. They thought they were going to tack on a few $100, and they didn't. So I don't know if that pressures Google to adopt something similar.
Yeah, I would take a slightly higher price maybe on the Pixel 6 because I did like it so much, even with the issues that I had. But it's like at that point with the competition you've got, it's like maybe I want like a little, want some like dumb extras, like a charger in the box again, maybe, just like really sell it to me at that like competitive mark. Don't like be like, yeah, it's like,
I could,
because like a lot of the phones at that mark have a lot of extra like pop to them, I guess.
I could get on board with a slightly higher Pixel 7 price if they did some stuff like, bumping the display up to 120 hertz, and, maybe increasing the battery or something like that. Like if they made it, worth a little bit more. But if they're sticking with 90 hertz and stuff like that, then I feel like the price should kind of stay where it is. And it's, I don't know, my experience coming out of,
I agree.
At the tail end of the Pixel 6 series, we've got the 6A now and the 6 and the 6 Pro. And looking at the whole line together, I really don't think that the Pixel 6 makes sense for the vast majority of people. Because if you're looking at the phones and you're trying to decide which one you want to buy, and you're like, the features in the Pixel 6 Pro, I don't need a 120 hertz screen. I don't need the extra camera and stuff like that. You save money going down to the Pixel 6, but you save more going down to the 6A for an almost identical experience. The only real benefit that the 6 had over the 6A was the better camera hardware. But with Google's image processing,
like
the vast majority of people are not going to benefit from that unless you're a real, pixel peeper photo nerd that's going to be pushing the camera hardware to its limit. I've been daily driving the 6A since it came out, and I've never once been like, I wish I had the Pixel 6 camera. And I've been taking a ton of photos.
Yeah, the Pixel 6 is a fun camera, but I use it I'm a pixel peeper, this kind of recommended for Pixel 6 zone. But when you use the RAWs, you're ended up with 50, 60, 80 megabyte files, and those build up so fast. I'm constantly having, when I'm using the Pixel 6, having to go out and clear out my Google Photos faster than I would have to for anything else, which is fun because I get lots of photo data to play with. But it's most people would rather have a more efficient storage and a nice photo rather than 2 versions of every photo and one of them looking really faded and being 4 times the size, becomes a lot to take advantage of that extra camera, I guess is what I'm saying. It's not it's there and it's better. It's to actually get the most out of it, you're playing a lot more down the line.
How do you, as someone who's a photography nerd, right? You write about even DSLRs for us now quite frequently. How do you feel about the rumored camera? Yeah, be quiet about it. How do you feel about the upgrades to the Pixel 7 Pro and 7's camera? Because based on what I've seen from the leaks, there's not a new sensor. It's all computational photography upgrades. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the vibe that I'm getting based on the leaks.
That's what I'm hoping.
Do you think that'll be enough? And just a temperature check, are you hyped about that?
Yeah, so I've talked about this a lot. I mean, anyone that's kind of followed any of the photography videos that I did throughout the year on our YouTube channel would probably have seen me reference this. But this guy named David Amell, who works for MKBHD, did a video maybe right when the Pixel 6 came out, maybe a month after. And it was all about how Google's camera processing is still very much tailored towards more the smaller sensors that are on the Pixel 6a. And then when you add that similar processing to the Pixel 6, it starts to over sharpen things that, because the sensor is so big, it's getting more of a realistic look. I feel the iPhone 14 is kind of falling into that trap. I know when we saw a lot of sample images, they were looking very sharp compared to last year, which can sometimes look good, but also can sometimes be a little bit of overkill, especially when you start getting into bigger sensor sizes.
Also some out there wacky stuff with the sky with the latest iPhones too. It sometimes gets blown out and has weird saturation and stuff like that. It's very Samsung-esque in some ways. I didn't talk about that much in my review, but I just wanted to mention that.
Just
that's
with regular camera or with the RAW when shooting RAW?
Not with RAW, just with the regular camera. Just some stuff that I haven't seen before from the iPhone in terms of post-production computational. But continue. Sorry.
But yeah, I was just going to say, based off of kind of what I learned from David and my own experience with the Pixel, I would really I think a year of really refining that pipeline for the camera processing would be very worthwhile. It's something that we saw before the iPhone 14, where it's Apple had used 12 megapixel sensors for years. And then by the time we got to the iPhone 13 Pro, they were we basically have the same 12 megapixel sensor in all 4 cameras on this thing. And each one is honed to perfection because we've been using and perfecting this sensor for years. So I think Google getting another year or two with their 48 megapixel sensors on the Pixel 7, 7 Pro, 6, 6 Pro type of zone. Not that these improvements will come to the 6, but I think another year just honing that in will ideally make the processing a little better. But on the other hand, they could make it worse. They could add more sharpening. They could add more color pop. They could add more AI effects. So we'll have to see how it turns out. And I don't know. I'm just hoping for a nice, good photo with good color, but not too much over sharpening, and I'd like to see maybe them take advantage of that high resolution mode a little more.
Yeah, so just to jump back in, I pulled up a leak from end of July, that basically dug into the Google Pixel camera app and pulled out some information from that. And so based on the information they were able to pull out of the camera app, the Pixel 7 and 7 Pro are going to sport the same Samsung GN1 primary sensor as what's in the Pixel 6 and 6 Pro, which isn't really a surprise. Like you said, it's kind of more of a pattern now to keep the same sensor year over year and develop and hone your computational photography around it to get a really, really good result. So I expect we'll be seeing the sensor or a very similar sensor in Pixel phones in the Pixel 7 as leaked, but also probably in the Pixel 8 and maybe even the Pixel 9. And then
yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they can truly change, because now that we're into like this 48 megapixel, like 100 megapixel zone, it's like we're really getting towards the like how much you can push a small sensor. Like you could make this last for years at this point, compared to before.
They're also supposed to have the same ultra wide sensor, which is, where is it here?
Like same as the 6, or the two phones will have the same sensor?
Same as the 6. Yeah.
Like the 7.
Cool. The only real change is the Pixel 7 Pro's telephoto zoom camera is supposed to jump up to a Samsung GM1 instead of the Sony sensor that was in the Pixel 6 Pro. And that sensor. GM1 sensor is supposed to be really similar to the GN1. So that should improve the telephoto lens and probably means that Google will be able to use similar computational photography stuff for both lenses, for both sensors.
Keeping things uniform between the two is exciting.
So you should get more similar results out of the telephoto lens, and the telephoto lens should hopefully be sharper and all that. And then the other changes on the front-facing camera, it's going to use the same 11 megapixel selfie camera that was in the Pixel 6 Pro, but that's going to be in both the Pixel 7 and the 7 Pro. The Pixel 6 had, I think, an 8 megapixel selfie camera. And there's a bunch of rumors around the Pixel 7 and 7 Pro supposedly supporting a face unlock feature of some kind with that higher res selfie camera. Based on, there's been a ton of leaks of Google developing a face unlock feature using the Pixel 6 Pro selfie camera. So rumor is, there's like a long running rumor. I don't know if it'll actually happen. I am kind of hedging my bets and saying no, because to me it doesn't really make a lot of sense to just do a camera-based face unlock when you had the Pixel 4 system that was like actual legitimate good face unlock, and then Google just abandoned it. So
ditched it.
But we'll see.
Yeah.
Before we switch gears to the Pixel Watch, I just want to throw out like one final question to both of you, since like Bennett, you live in you use iOS, but you also use the Pixel device. John, you live in pretty much an exclusive Android world. I know you still dabble in iPhone occasionally, but like, what's your hype level for both of these devices? Like, is this an exciting upgrade year for the Pixel line, or is it similar to what we saw with the iPhone 14 series, where it's relatively pedestrian with like maybe a few cool new upgrades? Very much an S year, I guess, is what we saw with the iPhone this year. Is this like a more substantial upgrade for the Pixel this time around?
You want to go first, Bennett?
Okay. You can go first, Sean. Oh, I was going to say you can go first if you want. I don't have much to say.
Yeah, so I would say I'm hyped, but counterintuitively, I'm hyped because it's an iterative update. And
interesting.
My thought process is Google's Pixel line hasn't really seen a lot of iterative updates like this. I feel like most Pixel launches have been pretty significant changes. Like if you look from Pixel 1 to Pixel 2, Pixel 2 to Pixel 3, there's pretty significant changes. You know, they change up the design of the phone a fair bit, right?
Yeah, the size, the cameras, everything. Like, they've been on a crazy path for the past like up until the 6 potentially.
And so to me, it feels like Google has kind of found a groove that it's going to stay in with the Pixel 6 and 6 Pro, which is good because I really like the Pixel 6 and 6 Pro. They had issues, obviously, But I think they had good bones, for lack of a better term. And so the Pixel 7 and 7 Pro, to me, it looks like they're taking all of the good stuff and they're kind of polishing it, and they're not refurbishing, they're refining it and just making it all a little bit better. And they're also trying to improve, some of the things that maybe were more problematic. And so, yeah, I'm kind of excited to see Google get itself into a space where it's going to follow more of an Apple-like pattern, where it has a big, new design, new launch and everything, and then it sticks with that for a couple years and refines it and polishes it and makes it really, really good. Because like at this point in, the smartphone ecosystem and the smartphone market, I feel like you don't need to reinvent the wheel every year. And doing so probably sets you back, because if you're spending all your time and energy and money,
That's a good point,
redesigning your phone every year, it makes it harder to focus on the things that matter more. And like every phone at this point is, a boring slab of glass. So, stop trying to make it look crazy fancy and just make everything else work really good. And also, I think it'll help with Pixel having more of an identity, because if you see an iPhone, you're like, that's an iPhone. It's an iPhone. Everybody knows it's an iPhone, right? Pixel phones haven't had that same identity. It's never been like, for me, I see a Pixel and I'm like, oh, that's a Pixel. But that's because I'm a nerd that spends all my time looking at Pixel leaks.
I know.
The average
I'm always
person
hyped when I see them in public too. I'm like, hey, this one.
So yeah, I think it's going to be good. And I'm kind of excited about it from that perspective. I think also it'll give, the average person, if you bought a Pixel 6 and you're coming into the Pixel 7 Pro and you're looking at it, basically what I'm trying to say is, if you bought a Pixel 6, you probably don't need to get a Pixel 7 based on what we've heard so far, which is great, because I don't think anybody needs to upgrade their phone every year. I think it's, it's kind of wasteful. It's really not necessary. And so, I really do want to see more companies move into this kind of, as boring as it is, if you're in a more iterative zone, you're not creating that pressure on people to upgrade every year, and people are going to get more out of their devices. Their dollar is going to go further, right? Maybe if you bought a Pixel 6, you don't need to upgrade until the Pixel 8 or the Pixel 9, right? So
yeah, I think so. I think you pretty much summed it up. I would think that would probably be what I would say too. Like, I'm not overly hyped for the event, partly because they've not leaked, but they've shown off a lot of stuff beforehand. Like, they've even the Pixel Watch, they're like, it's coming and all this stuff. But I guess that would have leaked
for months.
anyway.
They've said that.
Yeah. Well, since the last
Google I/O, they basically showed off all of the products at I/O and said, these are all coming.
Yeah. Yeah, there's even a tablet that like we might see a little bit of, but we probably won't see the hardware of. But yeah, so I guess that stuff is all kind of exciting, but not crazy exciting, because it's already been kind of shown to us. But yeah, like John said, if they can truly just like start to like establish the Pixel line and really hone it down for a year, that'd be really cool. A good example of that is the iPhone like 13 to 14. We were all like chirping it when it first came out because they didn't rearrange it. But then when you look inside, like the repair costs are like basically cut in the third now, because they like change the inside so much that you can like take the front and back off and all this other like crazy stuff. But like you wouldn't get to that point probably without those 2 years of refinement leading up to it. And now that's like a really exciting thing that hopefully will be in like iPhones moving forward. And hopefully Google can like discover and kind of come up with their own little like hidden perks that just like increase the value without having to like push people to a new phone every year.
So then the possibly last item we have is the Pixel Watch. Like I was personally excited about this because like I'm mostly like 90% an Apple device user at this point.
But you still wear your Pebble, eh? 90% Apple, but you still got a Pebble.
I still have a subscription to Rebel too at the same time.
There's no way those guys are doing anything. You're just giving them free money at this point. What's happening at Rebel? You've got to check it out.
It makes some of the services and stuff like that work. I think I did cancel my renewal this year though. But yeah, this isn't a Pebble podcast, unfortunately. I'm like a big fan of the Apple Watch. I've like used one forever, but since the 5, arguably even the 4, like if you don't care about the always on screen, the Apple Watch has been entirely identical. Like I know there's been very subtle changes, like with the 6 they got the bigger screen, but between the 6 and the 7 it's like the pretty much the exact same thing.
What are you
right?
talking about? Mine's blue and yours is green.
Yeah, the different colors, a big massive change on Apple's part there. So like part of why that happens is there's no competition really in the smartwatch space. The only thing that you can like really argue is viable is what Samsung's doing, right?
Well, the
And I
Garmin
think
stuff, I
those
would say Apple like this year proved that was maybe competition by putting out the Ultra. But anyway, we don't need to
with
get
the
into that.
with the Ultra, yeah, sure. I do think that's a very niche market, and I have like a sneaking suspicion that the Apple Watch Ultra isn't gonna like sell as well as Apple hoped it would. But I mean, like just in terms of like mass market smartwatch appeal, I guess is more what
Fair.
I'm talking about. So Apple doesn't have like any real competition other than Samsung, and I don't think that those smartwatches are super well known. So I've been excited about the Pixel because I'd love to see like a very competent Android based smartwatch exist and push Apple to do more with its like next smartwatch. Like the Series 9, I'd love it to be like more of a redesign because we've seen the same thing forever, especially with the Series 8. But based on like what I've seen so far about the Pixel Watch, like I don't know if it's gonna do that. It seems almost like I don't want to say beta product, but very much like a first generation wearable, which is disappointing because I was hoping like with the power of like Fitbit's technology and like Google's prowess and like hardware design, like something cool would happen. And you guys can correct me if I'm wrong.
Something
but
could
like,
might happen. We don't know yet, but it might.
but the
There's
vibe
a
that
slim
I'm getting,
chance.
like
Yeah.
based on leaks, is that it's kind of half baked. And maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I'm kind of feeling. And what do you guys think?
Seems like a classic Google. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
All we've really seen of the Pixel Watch so far is the design. And we've gotten a few.
The thinness is
What's that?
scary. The thinness is what scares me from the design. Like we haven't seen much, but I'm like, will it last? Like the Apple Watch is thick, but the battery life gets me through a day and a half, and I'm scared.
The
that
Pixel Watch looks pretty thick.
Who knows?
There was like a design showcase video that showed off basically the watch from every angle, and it looks kind of meaty to me.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. I need to see it in person, I think. But yeah, it's a cool design, but I'm scared of it.
I
being
do
too
like
small.
the design. Like I love the idea of
Yeah.
a circular watch. Like that's why the Pebble Time Round remains like one of my favorite smartwatches ever. Like it looks really cool.
Yeah, it literally like it looks like just like a little, almost like a drop of water. Like, you know, if you have like those perfect like drops of water sitting on a table and it's like perfectly round and like domed, and it kind of gives me that vibe. I really like how it looks. I think it looks really cool. It looks really modern. So I'm excited for that.
I agree.
But
Very fashionable.
in terms of what, oh, and the other thing for the bands in the showcase video that Google did, the teaser video, you don't see the actual mechanism, but it shows the bands being attached and detached from the watch, and the watch does this little like twist when the bands clip in, which is kind of interesting. So I'm curious to learn more about how that band attach mechanism works and stuff like that. But basically what I'm saying is like the design and hardware I think looks really nice. What I'm worried about is the software and how well it's going to work. And there's a few reasons for that. So for the software, Google acquired Fitbit, but they're not, and they've made a big deal about the Pixel Watch being, you know, having Fitbit. The retail packaging leaked and it says Pixel Watch with Fitbit. I don't know what that means. And
yeah,
nobody knows what
it means
because the Pixel Watch is running Wear OS. That's also been very clear, right? Yeah. And so is there just going to be like a Fitbit app on it that gives you access to all of your Fitbit health stuff? Like, how's it going to work? One of the leaks showed off the like the tracking hardware
and like the Fitbit
on the watch. Like,
outs.
you know how on basically the bottom of every smartwatch there's a bunch of sensors for tracking all of your body, all of your bodily functions.
Oh, is it really identical to the Fitbit?
So there's like a sensor array on the bottom of the Pixel Watch that's basically identical to the one that's on the bottom of the Fitbit Charge 5, I believe. That's their newest tracker. It's not their newest smartwatch.
Charge, yeah.
Right, the sense. This will be out after that embargo lifts, actually, so it's fine. Anyway.
No, the Sense 2's already been announced. So, but
Oh, just the embargo for
Yeah.
reviews is okay. Cool.
but yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how that Fitbit integration actually works with the Pixel Watch. To me, my biggest fear is that you're gonna have to use like a bunch of different apps to use the Pixel Watch, because you're gonna need the Wear OS, whatever Wear OS
That would
companion
be-
watch there
That
is.
would suck.
And if Fitbit integration shapes up in the way that my worst nightmare is, you're going to need the Fitbit app too to do all of the Fitbit stuff.
Oh no.
You're saying, oh no, Pat, but that's how Apple Watch works.
Oh,
currently.
you need
There's
two apps. Interesting.
So there's the Watch app to set it
The
up and
Watch
to
app and then the
customize your
Health app.
faces, and then it's fitness. It's like called Fitness, the fitness
Okay.
app. The Health app.
Well, you
don't
can
get.
you can also get stuff from the Health app too from the
For
watch.
sure.
So, yeah,
I guess
that's a
so.
good
But that
point.
one's
I
like
didn't
kind
think
of a
that.
different one. But the fitness one is where I think like the Fitbit app will like definitely be in that same column of like, this is, you go here to set up your watch, then you don't really use that app unless you change your face a lot. And then the other app is like, if you do the fitness stuff, you're checking that every day. You've got like the widget and all that kind of stuff.
Well,
And that's kind of where
that's
I
a good
see it
point.
Maybe it won't
falling.
be that bad then.
I didn't think about comparing it to Apple.
Yeah. Well, I think you've got a point there, John, too, because like the Fitbit app currently is like geared towards like setting up your Fitbit and offering all of that in one place. So if all of that is still tacked into that app and you're trying to use it with your Pixel Watch, it could be a bit of a overwhelming situation maybe. But yeah, the Apple Watch currently is on 2, maybe even 3 apps if you do count the Health app.
So yeah, that's
all
one of
your
my
tracking and
concerns.
stuff.
Is just how it's going to work with all these different things. How is Google Fit going to fit into this?
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
true actually,
that's-
right? I hope Google Fit and Fitbit just finally merge and become one, because this is we're getting like Allo versus Chat kind of flashbacks here or whatever those all
As
were
much as
called.
I would love to see that, I am fairly confident that that's not going to happen, because as part of the acquisition for Google to get Fitbit, they had to agree to a bunch of binding commitments about how they would use all of the Fitbit health data. And one of the binding commitments that Google agreed to for the acquisition was that they wouldn't mix any of the Fitbit health data into other Google data or use it for Google ads or anything like that. And so legally, Google has to keep all of the Fitbit health data separately in its own data silo as part of their agreement to go ahead with the acquisition. And so as much as I would love to see, a Google Fit and Fitbit combination, because I don't want all these
like
apps,
it's perfect. Like call it Google Fitbit. That's a great
I don't think it's
combination.
going to happen.
Maybe, yeah, I could see Fitbit taking the place of Google Fit and Google Fit like sliding back more into like the health focus, kind of like the Apple Health app. But yeah, I don't see them like combining. I guess you're right with like that kind of track record. But I could see Fitbit just becoming the main one and Fit sliding into the background, which would be sad because like 2 years ago, Fit got a really nice redesign. It's a very attractive app. But
so yeah,
that doesn't always win.
That's one concern, is how the Wear app, Fitbit, Google Fit, how all of that's going to coexist with the Pixel Watch. And I have a sneaking suspicion that it's not going to work well. I think there's going to be a lot of issues. I think there's going to be a lot of growing pains. I think it's probably going to be confusing for a lot of people. But we'll see. We'll see how it all shakes out in the end. I could be worrying over nothing.
Hopefully it's not as bad as like the Samsung wearable app where it's like you get the app and then it's like download this extension to use this product, to download this extension, and you're like in the app store trying to download the wearable app the first time and you're like, why is there 19 wearable apps? Like, yeah. So I don't think it'll be that bad, but that's like the worst case scenario nightmare for me.
What about stuff like, okay, are there any rumors? I guess this is 2 points actually. Are there any rumors surrounding anything tied to like battery life? And then also, what about the app ecosystem? Because that's something that Apple has always had like a pretty significant advantage over Samsung smartwatches, just because there's so many Apple Watch apps. Not that I like personally use them, but I know that is something that a lot of people want access to with their smartwatches. Does the is the expectation the Pixel Watch, since it's Wear OS based, will just be able to jack into all those pre-existing Wear OS apps?
So there's a few things at play here. Wear OS is in the process of becoming Wear OS 3.0, which is their latest and greatest big update. Wear OS 3.0 had a lot of promise in terms of what it was going to do. I haven't really seen any of that kind of materialize yet, because I think the only watch so far that has Wear OS 3.0 is the new Galaxy Watch 5. And actually, maybe the Galaxy Watch. Okay, here we go. So I think what I was saying was Google's in the process of moving to Wear OS 3.0. And so there's a lot of stuff kind of in the air at the moment. Some of the Samsung Galaxy watches are already on Wear OS 3.0. I haven't had any hands-on time with it yet, but my understanding is it's supposed to be a really big improvement to performance. You're still going to have all of your apps, Wear OS apps. That being said, I don't think the app library is as big as what you have on Apple Watch. And that's mostly a consequence of the Wear OS ecosystem basically only consisting of Samsung for years.
5 years almost at this
And even
point.
then, most of the Samsung watches were running Tizen for a long time, so they weren't even really part of the
Until
ecosystem.
recently.
It would be interesting to see if this Fitbit integration is more of a Google Watch thing or more of a Wear OS thing. Because if, like what we were talking about before, where it's kind of like tying it towards Apple Fitness, that seems like something you would kind of want to market with the software. But the Fitbit hardware being on the bottom makes me think it might be Google only, which is kind of a weird line to draw. But we'll have to see how this goes.
I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be Google only.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to pitch it as like a major selling point for the Pixel Watch, as like, you know, their whole kind of health ecosystem is all going to be based on Fitbit. At least that's kind of the vibe that I've been getting from the rumors. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
I don't know what the leak said, but I kind of hope it works on iPhone just because of that. Like Fitbit thing might be a really good way to like upgrade existing Fitbit users to a Pixel Watch, which is then a good way to like get them in the door to a Pixel. You know what I mean? Be kind of a cool strategy if they did something like that. Because I could see like if there's Fitbit people, I don't know why I'm calling them Fitbit people. There are Fitbit owners who are on iPhone and
Very
Android,
passionate
so
about Fitbit.
yeah, and then like this kind of almost seems
I
like
used
the
to use a
logical
Fitbit with an
upgrade
iPhone.
because it's so much nicer looking. We'll have to see obviously if the stat tracking and the battery life compete with Fitbit on every level, but yeah, it seems like this could be like a really sly way into hitting the markets outside of Google's like existing reach, I guess, if that makes sense.
The battery life will not match Fitbit. I'm gonna.
Yeah, I know.
I think. Thank you for
I'm a
reminding
dreamer.
me, because that was the other part of Pat's question before the entire podcasting network burst into flames. Pat had asked what the battery stuff or battery leak situation was looking like. And basically, there's been 2 major battery leaks. One of them said that the Pixel Watch would have a 300 milliamp hour battery. And then the other leak was based on code from the Fitbit app that was basically you need to charge your watch reminder. And the way that the code and everything was set up is it seems like the reminder will pop up before you're going to bed, and it will be like, hey, charge your watch before you go to sleep so that it has enough juice to make it through the night to track your sleep.
The sleep track, yeah.
And it seems like the Pixel Watch is going to last about 24 hours on a charge, which is not great.
It's not bad though. It's like that's pretty comparable with the Apple Watch, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Maybe the Apple Watch is like another couple hours on top of that, but not a significant.
It's not as good as Fitbit.
Yeah.
So the Fitbit trackers, you can get several days out of them easily. Fitbit, I think, advertises 5 or 6 days of battery life. I think in my experience, I usually get closer to 3 or 4, but that's still pretty good for the tracker.
Oh, yeah.
On the smartwatch, my Fitbit Sense, which is a year old now, so that could be a factor. I have to charge it every other day. And so daily charging kind of isn't that exciting to me as a prospect, but
yeah, that's what I'm used to with the Apple Watch. I charge it every day. Like it's just the same as my phone. I put it on the charger at night, which makes like sleep tracking and the body temperature tracking stuff like super weird because I have to like charge it a little bit before I go to sleep and then put the watch back on, which has always been a strange thing to me when they like wanted to have these overnight features, but also you have to charge it before you're able to wear it overnight.
I always
Yeah,
find too, I'm in a weird boat with the overnight stuff, but I have like this like plastic kind of link band, and it's not like incredibly comfortable to sleep with. So I'm always like, I want to do sleep tracking, but then I kind of want to switch over to my like soft silicone band, and I
Yeah,
also don't want
that's
to
what
do
I
that
wear.
every night before I go to bed. So it's kind of this weird mix for sleep tracking for me, where it's like I'm interested in the data, but the hassle of actually doing it is a lot, I guess.
So beyond the Pixel Watch, is there anything else that we expect to see at this event? I know there's been a few crazy rumors surrounding like a super high-end Pixel Ultra, which I
Just want
do
to see
not think
Sundar
will happen.
Pichai smile.
He's gonna smile a lot and talk a lot about hardware.
I hope
Stadia, I'm
so.
sure Stadia will be there. That'll be
Oh
a
yeah,
big
that'd be a
a
big
big
thing.
point of the event.
I would be shocked if they did anything with Stadia.
No,
Stadia
they're not going to.
is dead platform.
There's going to be a
Please
specific
direct all of your angry tweets about that
Stadia.
comment to Brad Shankar.
Yeah.
Stadia's #1 fan.
Yeah. No, there's going to be a Stadia version of the phone. It's going to have a big S on the back. It's going to have like joysticks built into the side. It's going to look like that Logitech thing that came out 2 days ago or 2 weeks ago or whatever.
Google Pixel Stadia edition.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
there is a tablet we might see, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Google is working on a Pixel tablet, but they've said that they're targeting 2023.
It won't come out, but we might see it, I would think.
Yeah, they might show off some more information about it.
Some renders, the back of it.
Because they announced it at Google I/O, but by announced it, they showed a picture of it and said, "Hey, this is coming next year," and then that was it. I think I didn't watch Google I/O because I was dealing with a newborn.
Tough one, or maybe a better one,
yeah.
actually. I was gonna say
maybe
Google
it was more
I/O
fun.
and these like things that we're talking about now, like the watch and the tablet. It's like we'll see them, maybe we won't. But what we learned at I/O is like Google's going full force into like developing its own ecosystem, software, hardware, both sides of the coin. So perhaps we'll see more groundwork laid for that. I don't know exactly what type of things we'll see, but improvements to Android like fast transfer and all those types of things. Maybe some stuff about it working better with Windows or Chrome OS. That all could be cool things to see off, although entirely software related, not
Android
as exciting as new
13 will be
hardware.
there, obviously.
Oh yeah, good point.
and
Android 13.
To address the high end Pixel rumors, there have been a lot of rumors about a Pixel foldable, but not anything specific to this event. I would be shocked if there was a Pixel foldable at this event.
There's nothing there.
And knowing Google and their track record with leaks, if the Pixel foldable was a thing they were working on and they were going to do at this event, we would know because it would have leaked.
It would be in a box,
good point.
Fitbit included. Not a big deal.
There
We would've
were
seen it.
leaks about a possible Pixel Ultra, but I feel like that's a thing every year.
There's always like these like, we see this one code name, it's called Sunfish, and we don't know what it is. Probably a high-end Pixel. It's like always some fish code.
Yeah, there was a thing from, I think, a Weibo post about different codename devices that were being worked on at a Foxconn factory, and one of them was supposedly the Pixel foldable, and one of them was supposedly this high-end Pixel with a ceramic back instead of glass. But there's a lot of confusion around the ceramic one, and the codename has also been referenced in various like test scenarios. So a lot of people seem to think that it's like just a test device that Google has that they test new hardware and stuff like that on before they bring it into the Pixel line. So we'll see what happens. I don't think we're going to see anything crazy outside of the Pixel 7 series and the Pixel Watch. We might get some stuff about a tablet. Maybe they'll talk about Stadia, although I doubt it.
Stadia controller 2, better rumble.
Maybe
Calling it now.
But yeah, I think we're pretty much just going to see Pixel Watch and Pixel 7 at this event, and I don't think there's going to be a lot of surprises.
No, I think you're right. With all the other Google events, kind of like there's like a search one and a home one leading up to this, I think it'll just be all of the events will be hyper focused on what they're like kind of about. I don't think there'll be a lot of surprises.
There might be some Nest stuff too happening. Like
I think there's
rumors.
A Nest
surrounding
event, isn't there?
Is there a Nest event? I know there's rumors surrounding like a new wired doorbell and like possibly speaker stuff. Is the Nest event attached to the Google event, or is it a totally different thing?
I'm not sure. I thought it was a different thing. I could be wrong, John. Am I sounding crazy?
I don't know.
I'm probably crazy.
I've had my focus on Pixel, so
no, you've been more in the news than I have. So
I don't even know if there is an event.
There's
There's just like rumors circulating. So we'll see. But it would make
Interesting.
sense for them to announce everything at the Google event, obviously, because like Nest products are Google products.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a relatively good place to wrap things up. We will have like a post-event podcast, maybe next week, maybe the week after. Bennett will be at the event alongside Dean. So we'll have like stuff directly from the event itself. We'll also have like hands-ons with all of the devices on the 6th or the 7th, depending on how quickly they get done. So make sure to keep an eye on the website because we'll have a ton of content tied to all of the Google stuff that's going down over the next couple of days. But yeah, that's it. Thanks for listening to the SyrupCast. And wait, my intro is all messed up.
I'm Patrick O'Rourke. You can find me at Patrick O'Rourke. You can find all my work on MobileSyrup.com. Bennett, where can people find you?
Said it exactly.
Did I nail
like
it?
Me. That's perfect. No,
I
there's
hear
like
it a
another
lot.
sentence.
Damn.
Another sentence in here that I confused. I got confused with. I'll start from the beginning. And that's it. Thanks for listening to the SyrupCast. You can find me on Twitter at Patrick_O'Rourke and of course on MobileSyrup.com. Bennett, where can people find you?
You can find me anywhere online at the Brad Fad, and I'm really sad that I missed the underscore in your name. I feel like a fraud now. Also, you can find me on the Mobile Syrup socials, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. We got 300 subscribers over there. Hop on board, guys, because it's gonna go somewhere.
Does my Twitter handle even actually have an underscore?
Oh my god,
Yeah,
you should know better than me.
It 100% does.
Imagine if it didn't. That'd be funny.
I would not be surprised if I'd been like saying that for 5 years and didn't even realize it.
John, a second Patrick O'Rourke just raking in followers somewhere.
There is someone who has that handle. I've tried to get it before. John, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at John_Lamont. That's JON_LAMONT. No H as always. And you can also find me on the website MobileSyrup.com, where I write about Pixel and other stuff.
And as always,
I've seen him write about other content. It's real.
Sometimes Windows stuff, Windows things.
Yeah.
You can find all of our content on MobileSyrup.com and also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at MobileSyrup. Thanks for listening and watching.